All right, we are talking about something that is so vitally important to anyone that is about to embark on a healing journey, that is ready to start to put themselves first, that wants to start to address some of their trauma, that are ready to ditch the post-to culture once and for all. Anyone that is on the precipice of any type of journey or self-healing work, whatever that means to you. And this goes for, people that are working with me currently, people that are on the edge and might be thinking, do I want to work with Denise? Do I not want to work with Denise? These are for people that are kind of in that questioning stage. Like, what do I need to do here? I know I'm a little bit unhappy with my life and I'm not too sure how to proceed. I'm feeling very overwhelmed. I don't know what the first step is. Everything really feels like it's causing a lot of anxiety in my body. So I'm just not going to do anything that feels a little bit better. This is kind of the first step, and it's vital, vital, vital to setting you up for success as you start to progress through this process. And that is the topic of emotional safety. And before we move on, you're probably like, what in the heck is emotional safety, Denise? Because I think when I use the word safety, and I've used the word safety here within the community many times, and I've actually ask the question, what does safety mean to you? And I think a lot of people consider safety to be something outside of themselves that makes them feel safe, as opposed to being able to ground yourself and have emotional safety within yourself. And as I sort of go through my own journey, my own business journey, and as I support more and more clients, I start to see more and more that many of us, myself included, before I started my own journey, are in a perpetual state of fight, flight, or freeze, meaning the nervous system, which is what is within your body, is just completely strung out. And what do I mean by this? Here's the thing. So many of us, as we have discussed here, identify with being exhausted empaths. And when you are exhausted in that fashion, when you are completely tapped out, when you have been dealing with challenge after challenge after challenge, and if you come from a really traumatic upbringing and you have the emotional imprint of that trauma, which is your response to the actual event itself that carries with you over and over and over for great lengths of time until you start to address the trauma, your body has learned to live in stress mode. And that's why when we talk about the nervous system, or when I say things like your nervous system, or it's on fire, or it's not functioning optimally, or it's not in a place of like rest and digest, meaning it's not in a relaxed state, it is probably because it is in, a state of overwhelm, meaning that you are in like feeling those stress hormones consistently and it never really shuts off and you don't get any rest. And an interesting fact, and one of the first videos I have actually ever recorded, was all about the impact of stress on the body and what can sometimes happen when your nervous system is functioning at this high level, is that you end up becoming addicted to cortisol, to adrenaline, to the rush. You become addicted to being in stress mode. And when you're consistently living life in stress mode like that, where it doesn't matter what it is, like just the smallest thing can throw you into a stress response, it's your body's go-to. That is because we have been programmed to go there, because we have become addicted to being in stress mode. And that's how sometimes I think we get like stuck in toxic loops, or if you're somebody that continuously finds themselves in like, dramatic situations or toxic situations. It's not that you're bringing it on. I'm not saying that at all whatsoever, but it's like the body begins to crave that stress mode. It craves cortisol. It craves adrenaline. It craves to be in that state because it's the state it's become accustomed to. And as you all know, and I'm sure you have heard this many, many times, doctors say it all the time, stress can cause so much angst in the body. They always say stress kills, but that feels really, really, really extreme to me. Stress knocks your body out of a state of equilibrium. And if you become addicted to it, you might start to think, oh, there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with me. I need to go to the doctor. I need to get medication. I need to look to something else to be able to get myself out of this stress mode. But that's because your nervous system is on fire and it's grown accustomed to being in this specific state. And that is not your fault. There is so much going on at play here. This could be so many different factors going on. Some of which could be trying to adhere to supposed to culture, of course, and a lot of it could be unresolved trauma. It could be, different challenges you've experienced in your life, or it could be, the way you were raised. If you grew up as a child and you grew up in a really chaotic household, you learn from an early age that stress mode is the way you are supposed to be living. It's like that's what you learned when you were a child, and you bring that with you into adulthood. And if you don't learn a new way of doing things, and if you don't learn how to create emotional safety within the body and safety just in general, it will continue. But don't fear. Don't fear. If this is you and you're like, let's chat, send me a message, and we can kind of go through a few things and see which direction is best for you. And another thing as well too, I think people always, when we think about their nervous system, we automatically think of like, we think of being in a stress mode, like being in fight or flight, but there's also this kind of like dissociation piece as well, where we go to the dissociation or the fleeing, meaning we just completely tap out. And that's like, when I talk about having a nervous system that's like, as opposed to being overwhelmed, it's underwhelmed. And I was actually listening to a fascinating TikTok, of course, just last night. And I wish I could remember the creator's name. I should have notated it. But she was talking about how when we start to dissociate, that is like the nervous system, like preparing us for death sometimes, because that's like the most extreme form, when we just completely tap out and we're like, that's it. I'm just like, I'm nowhere. I'm just tapped out. It's like our body that's preparing us for that next extreme, right? So again, this is with your nervous system isn't functioning optimally. So what can we do? That's the biggest thing. And that's the biggest piece of why emotional safety to me, and the work that I'm doing one-on-one with my clients, and what I'm trying to share with you here in the community as well, for those that I might not be the right fit for, or you might be just starting your journey and you're unsure, or you're feeling like, I want to try and do this on my own. This has got to be the first order of business, is tending to your nervous system and providing yourself a safe space to feel grounded, to be able to tap into that state of relaxation and to achieve emotional safety, so that you can start to explore some of these things. And it's not even just emotional safety, it's just feeling safe in the body and being able to reach a state where you feel like you can relax, where you feel like you aren't like hypervigilant, like looking over your shoulder, where you feel like you can actually tap back in as opposed to being tapped out. So why is this most important to me? And I think because, especially as it relates to the journey of worthiness and the journey that I am co-creating and collaborating with my clients, it's like you've spent so much time probably either in an emotional low or an emotional high. You don't really know what emotional safety feels like. You don't know what it's like to be in a situation where you can just simply be vulnerable, where you can just speak your truth, where you can speak your mind, where you feel at ease and at peace, and you know that the words that you're saying aren't going to be judged, that I'm not going to shame you, that you aren't going to be looked at like, okay, you're a weirdo, And I think if you spent so much time in like physically feeling unsafe, or physically feeling like you're living in stress mode, there is a sense where you don't feel safe to speak your truth, where you don't feel like you can actually comfortably start to share what you're going through, because you are in so much fear of judgment. What are people going to say? What are people going to think? Are they going to think this is stupid? And so many of the clients that I work with, for the first time ever, it's like we've got to institute's the wrong word, but we have to instantaneously create a sense of emotional safety, so you as the client can begin to open up to me and be vulnerable enough and know that it's safe to do so. I've got to set that stage right away, and we've got to be able to have that relationship almost instantly, which I think is why I show up here so much online, and so much of what I do and how I show my face and how I show up. And the reason that I'm always kind of sharing with you is so that you can get the sense of, am I going to feel emotionally safe with her? And I had another client send to me this really, I wish I had pulled it up. I could probably pull it up now, but it would take me too long. So anyway, she sent me this little saying that was basically like, when someone is vulnerable with you, they are trusting you with their heart. They are trusting you that you will keep them safe. And that is very, very powerful. And that's true, especially as it relates to the therapeutic relationship with myself, my clients, potential clients, or even here in the community. Even though you and I aren't working one-on-one together, I want you to feel safe when you click play, when you hit a video and you're like, oh, I can just relax and watch this video, and I know I'm going to get an uplifting message, or she's going to share something with me that's going to support me in my growth and development, and I can feel safe consuming this content and this information because I know that it's coming from a good place. I know that she has my highest and best in mind. Even if we've never met each other, I'm doing this because I want you to be able to progress in your own journey, and I want you to feel safe enough to watch these videos and expose yourself vulnerably and allow yourself to kind of go there and think about, what healing needs to be done for me and how do I need to do it, and just have a moment where you feel like you can have that release. And that's why emotional safety is key for me, especially as I start to work with new clients or potential clients. It's like, even on our first meet and greet, as you know, I do have an opportunity where you can connect with me one-on-one for half an hour, and we kind of figure out, is that emotional safety here? Is that energy here? Because I want you to feel safe when you're with me. That's my absolute, one of my number one values, is this idea that you feel safe. And it's not even an idea, it's a feeling. Like, we get on, even though it's not in person, it's always done virtually. I want you to feel the second you enter my presence, you enter my energetic bubble, you're like, oh my God, I don't have to be anything I'm not right now. And that's what I really invite you to do when you engage with my content, when we work together, when you have a potential to work together, is that you can drop that need to be anything but who you are and where you're at right now. I want you to feel safe enough to radically accept yourself as you are today. And even if that means you're not entirely happy with some of your patterns of behavior, you're not happy with clinging to, your traumatic past, if you're really, really yearning for change and something different, I want you to be like, okay, it's okay that right now I didn't do anything about this until now. It's okay that this is where I'm at. It's okay that I'm not entirely happy. I am safe to explore what comes next for me, no matter what that looks like, with me, with somebody else, on your own, even if that's the path that you're meant to take. I want you to feel emotionally safe to do so and to take off that mask, because, and so many of you, when I share it about being an exhausted empath, this is part of why we become so exhausted as empaths, is that we're putting on this like proverbial mask of what we think society wants us to be. And that's draining and exhausting. We don't feel like we can show people our flaws, and we don't feel like we can show up like ourselves, and we don't feel like we can be true to who we are, flaws and all, because we're worried about what society would think. Thank you, supposed to culture, for that. I really appreciate it. Love that conditioning for us. Or we worry about what other people might think. And that's one of my truest gifts. And I think that's one of the reasons that I pride myself on being such a good therapist, is because you never have to feel anything but safe with me. That is my number one goal. It is my number one mission. And never want you to feel like you have to lie to me or you can't be perfectly honest in my presence. And that's why emotional safety is so vital to the work that you're doing, or to the work that, for the people that are working with me one-on-one. That's why it's so vital, because it's like, if you don't feel safe with me, who can you feel safe with? And I think for anybody that's worked with a therapist before, it's like, that's what you really want most of all. You want to feel that sense of safety. You want to feel like you can just be yourself for one friggin' moment, finally, because you were tired. You were so exhausted of being anything but who you are. And when you get a moment to breathe, to be your authentic self, to stand and say, this is where I'm at right now. Please don't judge me. Please just see and hear me and hear my cries. When you get that moment, when that happens, when you can finally rest and be in that period of relaxation and tap into where you want to go, as opposed to trying to be something you're not and fitting yourself in a box that was never meant for you. When you have that sense of emotional safety, the most amazing shifts begin to happen. And that's when you really start to see yourself progressing, is when you can tap into that emotional safety. And that's got to start with me, because we're doing that foundational work together. And as you watch my videos, even if you're part of my community, it's like, that's what I want for you. That is my hope for you. That is what the vibration I'm sending to you, that you can tap into that sense of emotional safety, and you can start to be a little bit more vulnerable. And vulnerability is a scary friggin' thing. Everybody has this deep-seated fear of being vulnerable, because it leaves you open. It leaves you exposed. What would people think? What are they going to say? And the worst thing that happens, I think, sometimes, is when we experiment with vulnerability, and we do so with people that we haven't really vetted enough, or haven't earned their place to be able to have access to our true squishy center. I'm a Cancer, so that's how I kind of think of it. Yeah, shell on the outside, squishy inside, But those are the people that you really want to feel emotionally safe with, and expressing yourself most vulnerably are the people that that allow you to have that same sense of safety in their presence. And that's what all of us deserve, to feel safe with everybody that we're around. The people that are the closest to us, the people that have earned the space and the right to be, the people that have earned the right to be at our table is what I always say, are the people that make us feel emotionally safe. So when we practice that together, in our one-on-one time, or when you practice that watching one of my videos and you practice being emotionally safe, and you feel safe enough to go to these places and to explore some of these themes or these repeating patterns that have been coming up in your life, where you start to explore your own trauma, I want you to remember this feeling. I want you to remember how it feels when you're with somebody that that has your highest and best in mind, that is really wants what's best for you, that is on your team, that's your biggest cheerleader. When you have that sense of emotional safety, I want you to take that with you as you continue on your growth journey, because growth never ends. You never stop growing. That's just simply how it is. And if you've watched the documentary Stutz, I think it's called Stutz on Netflix, that Jonah Hill put out, about his therapist, his own therapist says the work never stops. It never, ever stops. It's a lifelong commitment, and we've got to keep evolving. But these are those beginning phases, and that's kind of where I'm at in terms of like the client work that I'm doing. It's like you're in those beginning phases of making self-healing a priority, which is why making sure that emotional safety is the number one goal, so that you know what it feels like, so that when you continue on after our journey finishes, and you expect that with other people, and you expect that feeling, and anyone that makes you feel anything otherwise, one of two things needs to happen. They need to be cut out of your life, because anyone that's not making you feel emotionally safe hasn't earned the right to be at your table and the right to be in your inner sanctum. Or two, a boundary needs to be set. If you're not feeling emotionally safe with someone and you're just keeping your mouth closed, but they're a person that you want to have in your life, you're for further kind of giving them the message that this is okay. A boundary needs to be set. And if the boundary is disrespected, then okay, you need to revisit this. Does this person deserve to be in my life, or is this another person that I need to let go of because they're not what's best for me and my well-being? So obviously we know that if we're working together, you and I, you're going to have that emotional safety, and we're going to do that together. But what about the people here in the community that I'm not the right fit for? I want to give you kind of some tangible ideas about how to create emotional safety for yourself. And I've already done that with number one, setting boundaries. And number two, always pay attention to how you're feeling when you're interacting with people, or how you're feeling in terms of like, if you're doing some exploration on your own, some self-healing on your own, pay attention to how you're feeling. Your body is your greatest messenger. It's always going to tell you how you feel. It's always going to tell you if you feel emotionally safe, or if you're in a dissociative state, or if you're in a state of stress hormones. Now, there's a difference. If you're in a state of stress hormones because that's what you're used to, then you're going to want to bring on some grounding techniques. That can be heart-centered breathing, where you're putting your hands on your heart and you're breathing into your heart space. You're really directing the breath into this area so that you can have a sense of calm. I know people always roll their eyes when I say that deep breathing works, but I'm telling you, it is so powerful. Your breath is one of your most powerful assets, and it's free to use. That's the best part. You don't even have to pay any money for it. But people always roll their eyes because they're like, oh God, deep breathing doesn't work for me, Denise. But realistically speaking, it's because you've spent so much time in this stress mode that your body hasn't yet become accustomed to relaxing through the breath. So that is one of the things that you can do, is to ground yourself and then be able to say, do I feel emotionally safe? Or is this a stress response that's been brought on by a trigger that I need to be able to look at a little bit deeper? Because triggers are always invitations. So that's the first thing. You can use deep breathing to sort of ground yourself, and then you can assess, do I feel emotionally unsafe? Do I feel safe to be vulnerable? Or am I just closing my mouth and I'm not saying anything because I'm worried what this person's going to think, and are they going to judge me and all this stuff? And if that's the case, then we circle back to what I said before. Does this person deserve to be a part of your life? Are they causing more harm than good? Or does a boundary need to be set? Right? And I think there is something to be said too in terms of creating emotional safety, in like letting people know ahead of time if you are about to talk to them about something that's a little bit deeper, and asking them if they have the bandwidth to be able to make space for you to really express and share vulnerably. Okay? And what does that look like? This is a really great way to make sure you're feeling emotionally safe before you even progress, is like set the stage for other people. And this is what I do with my own clients and in my own client work. You're going to say to somebody, hey, I've got something really vulnerable I want to talk to you about, and I'm a little bit nervous to share, and I just want to make sure I'm safe to do so. Do you have the bandwidth to allow me to share vulnerably and openly, because I'm a little nervous to talk about this? And they're going to say one of two things. They're either going to say yes, and you're going to be open to sharing, or they're going to say, I want to be there for you. I'm just not at that place right now. I'm not in a place where I have the bandwidth to do that. Can we reschedule? Or they're just going to straight up be like, and if that's their reaction, then you know you're probably never going to feel emotionally safe with those people. Or it requires a deeper conversation or a deeper dive into like, what is this response from this person? And going and seeing and assessing like, okay, do they just not have the emotional IQ to be able to support me with this? Are they the wrong person? Or is this simply part of their personality and this is their own work to do? And they're just giving me this face because they have a fear of vulnerability, and you really have to assess before you go forward. But if you lay that groundwork, if you set that stage with people, then you know whether or not it's safe to drop the mask. To just say, okay, I need to share something. I need to talk to somebody. Do you have the bandwidth? And you would be surprised at how much easier it is for you to be vulnerable when you've received that permission from somebody else and they've said, yes, I do have that bandwidth. I'm here for you. I am not going to judge you. I am 100% on board to listen and only listen. And I think there's something else to be said for that too, is for you to know before you share with somebody, what am I looking for? Because this is going to, again, support you in feeling emotionally safe. Am I looking for someone to just listen? Am I looking for someone to collaborate? Am I looking for problem solving? Am I looking for, like, what am I looking for here? Do I just need to get things off my chest? Because that's another way to create emotional safety for yourself, is to say, I just need you to listen. I don't really need any advice. I just need a place where I can share this openly and vulnerably. And I don't want to have to you don't have to worry about offering advice. I just need you to listen. Or say to them, like, I'm looking for someone to problem solve, but I'm a little bit embarrassed to talk about this. So can you just please be gentle with me? That's going to automatically give you an idea and an indication if this is the right person to be vulnerable with, and if you're going to have that emotional safety. So as you can see, those are just a couple of tricks that you can use. Again, these are some of the strategies that, I use even with my own clients, and I have my own ways that I create emotional safety. And I think a lot of that has to do with my own energy as well too. And just, I emanate safety. I'm a safety girl. Okay, that was the wrong. Oh my God, Denise. I think I might have said this in another video too. It's like a reference to Pretty Woman, but that's what came to mind. But it's true. That's who I am, and that's what I embody. And that's always something people have said to me. I always feel like I can share with you, and I know you're never going to judge me. I know you're never going to judge me. You're never going to say anything. You're never going to, be like, shame on you or anything. Like, that is one of my greatest gifts. And I think it's truly one of the things that makes me a really a powerful therapist. But that's a little bit about emotional safety. Hopefully you had a couple of takeaways. If you have any comments or questions, leave them below and I will certainly respond to you. And if you are even the slightest bit intuitively curious about what the journey to worthiness looks like, and if I can support you and I can be a part of your story, and if I am the right fit, and if you feel like you can be emotionally safe with me, please never feel afraid to reach out. I'm never going to judge you. I'm never going to shame you. And I'm certainly never, ever, 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 ever going to shame you or force you or make you feel bad if you don't work with me. That is not my jam. No, thank you. But I'm going to get on with the rest of my day, and I hope you have a really safe rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.